Morning, Gerri.
Emmy,
Good morning, Gerri.
hello.
Hello.
Hello. Have you
Yes.
been watching our golden girls of the pool doing Australia proud, where
Look.
too much sport is barely enough, as Roy and HG
I caught some.
would say.
Look, we are a sporting nation in Oz, and I have caught them doing their bit on TikTok, actually. I've got into a bit of TikTok. I don't know if you caught their TikTok contribution, but it's pretty funny. It includes masks. Anyway, but yeah.
I have not.
No.
I could maybe refer to my son because he's watched all of TikTok or appears to watch all of TikTok every day, having watched all of YouTube. Now.
Look, I thought, I'm trying to get my head around what TikTok is. It is pretty funny mostly. There's some ridiculous things on there too, but it's mostly pretty funny. But anyway, yes, we're doing well in the swimming, I think. From what I hear.
That's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, because what's really on my mind, and it is a serious topic, even though I'm sure we'll get a lot out of it, is cliches versus authentic and real communication. Now, sometimes we need the cliche, right? We need thank you for all your hard work. I have a friend who became agitated when she left a job and she didn't get the cliches she felt she deserved.
No.
And I think we all feel like that sometimes, that we deserve a certain set of cliches, and if they're missing, it's very
wrong.
difficult.
It feels disorienting. Yeah.
Yes, somebody hasn't followed the social script. Yet I wonder if the cliche is the enemy of good clinical practice.
This is the big topics. Big topics.
It is a big topic, isn't it?
Okay. Righto. So we're swooping around. We're circumnavigating the issue of cliches versus authenticity. Okay, it's a big topic, isn't it, Gerri?
It is a really big topic because often I'm in an interaction.
Yeah, right.
Not often. That's unfair. That's maybe a little
from time to time.
From time to time, I'm in an interaction where I think nobody here really wants any authentic communication.
It's very disappointing. Very disappointing. Isn't that disappointing?
It is a little.
I think it's alienating also, I feel, maybe. Isolating, we know it's being authentic. It's very disorienting, but it happens a lot. I agree with you, especially if you work for an organisation. Yeah,
maybe the cliche is the sign it's happening.
Then there's
whether hearing one or whether bringing out your favourites. Do you have a favourite?
Favourite what, Gerri?
Cliche.
Oh, look, it's probably too early in the morning for me to have my favourite cliches at my fingertips. I love it when you're in an organisation and it's not exactly captured in a easy to identify cliche, but there's a clear double speak between the mission statement of what you're supposed to be up to and what's actually happening. That's almost a cliche.
I know exactly what you mean, and I would even go one further. To identify this problem, look at an organisation's website and the front page of their website. Is that the correct expression? We'll have exactly what they're not doing.
Yes, it's awful. It's so demoralising when it's just not good, is it? I suppose I resolve that by. Well, how do you resolve that? Well, I resolved it by going, I can't do this anymore. I better go and work for myself, where, as God is my witness, we will do what we say we're going to do. Where the mission statement actually matches what we're up to. And that's sort of what happened.
Yes.
I mean, so that was an outward working of my own internal process. Gerri, I got to the edge of what I could handle. This is a long time ago now. But I think that's sort of, you can work it into your journey, can't you? Maybe, look, I'm jumping ahead. You stay with you. What have you got?
Well, what I'm thinking is if you're talking about something, if you're talking about something real,
yes,
even if it's superficial, even if it's not the most deep and meaningful thing in the universe,
sure,
and you're helping in a practical way, then the issues of authentic communication versus cliche are much less important.
Sure.
Much less salient. It's just not an issue. But if you're in a situation, this is the key. I mean, I think there's lots of keys, but if perhaps the client doesn't want to be there or has, very, very strong,
ambivalent.
Yes, very strong mixed feelings. Yes. If the practitioner is not supported,
Gerri.
Essentially, if the practitioner is not safe, not supported by their organisation, then I think, well, why the hell wouldn't you speak in cliches?
Do you know, this is a nightmare in the field, this issue. And it's also,
I'm sorry, nightmare's a really strong word. No,
but it is a nightmare. I'm yet, maybe it's just been my work experience. I don't know. But what you're describing there is really common. Like, and there's a lot of complexity that happens in the therapeutic relationship that's protected by confidentiality and privacy for a start. So it's very hard to articulate that dynamic to those outside that relationship or even outside the profession. Meaning, like, clients do have mixed feelings. They also go in and out of wanting to change, and they go in and out of being able to take, accountability for the parts of their process that they need to look at in order to make the changes that they want. And not all of us have reached adulthood all of the time. And some of us carry on like a pork chop when we don't get our way.
Yes. I think possibly you've just described me, but...
Well,
moving on. We don't need to probe into that.
We're diverse. But I mean, I think, depending on where you're at.
Yes, we all do it, yes.
Well, but also depending on how able you are to comprehend. So say you've got a diagnosis of bipolar, let's say. This is a classic with people with bipolar, I've found. It's actually, they go very much in and out of accepting that diagnosis because there's aspects of it that's kind of fun. The partying, going a bit funny, of having when they're up there having a good time. But when they're down, they're having a terrible time. And when they're up, they can go a bit too far and end up on Swanston Street with their knickers on their head, looking, passed out in the gutter, which is not a great look, or having like crazy sexual experiences that are very dangerous. So, but when they're in a phase of, I don't want to accept this, it's your fault because you're giving me a diagnosis. That's almost a cliche.
Yes.
So they're like blaming the practitioner essentially for the problem. Like blaming mum, like going, it's your fault, mum.
Yeah, I don't have a good maths teacher. And then anyone with half a clue knows that the thing to say, even if it is, that's what I wanted to talk about too, is sometimes a cliche and authentic communication can be the same thing.
Yeah,
and I think this is one of those cases where you say, well, it doesn't matter about the teacher. It's your responsibility to learn maths and do well in maths, no matter who your teacher is. Now, who hasn't had that said to them by a parent? Isn't that kind of your standard?
I think if you're from Queensland, you've definitely had that said to you. If you're from Victoria and perhaps in the rest of Australia, it's unclear to me whether those words were spoken to you in childhood.
Wow, how intriguing. Are you suggesting that the shoe-wearing states have very good maths teachers?
I think the shoe-wearing states... No, I think their children are allowed to be children for much longer, sometimes up until the age of 45. Like
in the shoe-wearing states.
In the shoe-wearing states, yes, that's my sense. So just totally got booted out. But, no, it's just there's diversity out there among what parents want their children to do and how much they value autonomy and independence versus dependence and connectedness. Like they sort of there's a variation in how that's seen.
Yes.
There's also a post-war thing going on. This is my hypothesis. Like there was deluge of immigration to Australia after the wars, both of them, but more so in the Second World War. And I think a lot of folk, especially, arrived in a state of trauma. And it, when you're in a disassociated state of some kind, it's really hard for you to take responsibility for what's happened to you. It's just hard to do that. So there's I think there might be a bit of a legacy of that going on.
Yes.
Like a collective legacy of we can't handle that, so someone else has to. It's not me.
Yes.
I didn't know how to do that, so someone else has to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that can get transferred onto the practitioner, Gerri, when there's a double speak going on about something. Anyway, it's just very hard to pin this down, isn't it? I think you've got a sense of it, though. So I should let you talk, really, shouldn't
I? I do think that sometimes the cliche can be a true. It can be a true intention. For example, saying to someone, the most important thing is keeping you safe, or the most important thing is looking after you. That is
I think that's true.
Very well worn, but can be true.
But I think you got to say it at particular moments, because sometimes it's for some people it's easy to forget things like that when you're caught up in something.
Yes, really, we're all on a journey. Another therapeutic cliche, because there's all kinds of cliches. There's sporting cliches, as I started with our Golden Girls. And I also, just as an aside, I hate the expression in sporting commentary, girls. They menstruate, they represent their country. Let's call them women or athletes, because that's what they are. Maybe technically some of the gymnasts are girls, but even so, they're doing things that you and I can't do. So
they're
anyway,
athletes. And they've trained hard. Yes, hard, man. The training regime's just grueling.
Yes, so I'm incensed by anger here. Sometimes the athletes do let me down a little because they refer to each other as girls, but
because
maybe they can do that.
The coaches have done that. They feel they have to. They've been socialised. They're trying to be good girls.
Yes, but let's just be a little precise here. I mean, the commentary probably is getting better. It's probably becoming slightly less cliched and slightly less sexist. I don't know.
You're tapping into you're lifting up the skin of Australian culture, Gerri, and you're seeing a misogynistic heart beating there.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. You might. Well, the thing is, how do we break that up? I think we need more data. We need more information. What else are you noticing?
So that's one thing I'm noticing. Of course, the business cliches are heaps of fun because they're American.
The Americans are fun. I'll tell you a cliche about Americans. Americans are so positive. They're so, can do. They're a bit light on the details at times, but so they're very can do,
Yes, in general.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, in general, a very positive kind of
honestly, right. That's the cliche, I suppose,
So Dilbert is the greatest source of business cliches.
Dilbert.
Let's open the kimono on this one.
I know you like that one.
Let's bring this up the flagpole and see who salutes.
No. Oh, no. Slightly sexual, but okay. I get you. Righto.
I mean, according to Malcolm Turnbull, I don't know on what dimensions, but the business world is getting better. Good. I think, he thinks on the dimension of sexism. but
Sure.
I get
it might be.
I've really never really entered the business world in any way, shape, or form. So I'm happy to believe him.
No, well, I mean, yeah, business world. What are we defining the business world as? The corporate business world? Or,
exactly. Are we the business world?
Yeah, well,
maybe.
In theory, maybe we a little bit are. Like, I'm not responsible for a department or purchasing or,
Oh, I love it when you use those kinds of words, department and purchasing.
Purchasing.
Invoices.
I love it. Oh, invoicing. Yeah, you need the admin side of it. Good, yeah. Righto.
Yeah, so as you can see, we have no idea what happens in the business world, maybe.
Well, there's a lot of responsibility. I'm aware of that part. Like, for example, if in business, if you don't understand how cause and effects works, you don't stay in business very long. If you don't understand how relationship works, you also don't stay in business very long. If you don't understand and can deliver what your customer or client wants, you have no business. So there's actually a lot of maturity in theory in the business world. I suppose we might see exceptions to that in the media, but if you want to grow up, go into business. We'll see how mature you are.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have never heard such a theory.
Well, because if you're missing something in your developmental pathway, it's going to smack you in the face if you go into business. You're going to immediately get direct feedback, and it's going to be very strong.
Oh, give me an example of that.
Oh, well, let's say you're shit at customer service, right? Like, say you say what you really think.
That you don't use cliches. That you are 100% into authentic communication at all times.
I'm trying to give an example of that. Oh man, I've got to think about that for a minute. Well, I suppose it's customer service. Like, there's probably a lot of people work in customer service. People who are agreeable and kind and compassionate people are drawn to customer service because they're dealing with the public, and the public at times are extremely rude. There's quite a number of Karens out there, and they're very entitled people who think that their case is way more important than anyone else's. But 90% of people are pretty reasonable. So if you work in customer service, you're going to be kind of sort of your attributes are being a little bit exploited to deal with the more difficult contenders in the public who are very, very demanding. And over time, that can wear you down. Because you basically have to sit with being unappreciated a lot. So to do customer service really well, you actually need to know how to negotiate. You need to know how to negotiate and reason with a person who might not be very mature or reasonable or even mentally well. And so I suppose customer service is a quick example of waitresses, hospitality, that's basically customer service.
Yes.
And, so in our state of origin, I don't know if I've told this story already, but anyway, I used to work as a waitress. And in our state of origin, when the waitress would come to the table, everyone would shut up and give their order in a timely and orderly fashion. And that was the way you give orders at a restaurant. Not so much in other places. They keep talking. This is very difficult for the waitress, because if you got an order a table of 20, and that used to happen, and you get an order wrong, the kitchen crucifies the waitress. They throw knives and remove your head and don't give you your dinner, for example. They're really annoyed.
Yes.
And I just couldn't deal with this failure to comply with the rules. Initially, I was like, because, it was very noisy in a restaurant, and a table of 20 is really hard to take orders. So you have to handle a situation like that when you work in customer service. And it doesn't matter that your customers are being absolute disgraces of human beings. It's that's part of what you're expected to deal with in customer service. So they have training about de-escalation and, dealing with conflict and essentially patting the customer down. But you need a reasonably strong sense of self to keep doing that for a job, because you're basically getting abuse hurled at you every 5 days.
Yes, you're bringing it back. I think I worked in hospitality between the ages of
when you're younger,
19 and 30.
it's an honourable trade. It's a bloody difficult job. You have to learn all the tables and all the menus.
And we're in good company. Many people have done that, and your empathy for hospitality workers, I guess, is rock solid within you.
Well, because what was your question, though? You want an example of the business world. Now, okay, here's another example, more complex example. Let me just try and put this together. So if you're a business manager, a senior manager, and it doesn't really matter what the organisation is, you're overseeing kind of the transfer of stock, the pricing of stock, the meeting the demands of a client.
I know the word for this.
Oh, what?
This is deliverables.
I think, yes.
There might be some deliverables that you're responsible for, meaning, isn't that a cute word? You have to deliver something.
It's not to take the wind out of your sails there, Gerri. I think deliverables are more like documents about an analysing a business situation as opposed to stock. But good one. I only know this because I briefly worked in the business world in London when I was about 22 or 3. Anyway, where are we going with this? Deliverables, well, in that context were...
Anyway, outcomes, perhaps? I mean,
I love the way you've just
I feel as a clinical psychologist, my job is about outcomes.
Oh, yes, you love an outcome.
I love an outcome.
You get anxious when you don't get one, I think. We have to deal with perfectionism at that point.
Well, I don't know.
But anyway, back. Okay, so you want outcomes. Okay, let's have a talk about outcomes. What sort of outcomes do you want, Gerri, at work?
Well, I work in a particular service where a particular kind of outcome is needed. And I agree with that. I'm on board with that. But in private practice, I think usually the outcomes are fair enough. I think it's fair enough that people want and expect and are working towards symptom relief, feeling better, and in fact better lives, more fulfilled and richer lives. And this is where the cliche becomes unnecessary, because if two people are working on that, then it's about something. It's about something real and important and meaningful. And I don't need cliches so much.
No, it sounds lovely. And having a great working... So what do you need to get these outcomes? What are the preconditions or the assumptions that are made to get the outcomes?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? First of all, you need somewhere to practice. You need a room.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Or a Zoom, I guess, in this day and age, that is comfortable and confidential. This is a brilliant question, Imi. What
do we need to get the outcomes?
Yeah, or could I phrase the question slightly differently? What do we need in order to be able to practice in a manner to maximize, ensure those outcomes? So what do we need in order to practice well? Said in English. Okay, so we need some physical things, right?
We do. We need a container
with a printer and some sort of soft furnishings, and I think a coffee table is reasonably necessary. Because you might need to put your notebook on the coffee table, or the client might need to put their coffee or their water bottle on the coffee table. I mean, you can put it on the floor, I guess. Yeah, but, ideally...
A little table, some kind of a little...
Very, very, very concrete here. So you need a nice pen, right? So you can just see the needs are getting more and more and more. Once again, we must go to Dilbert. Dilbert has a hierarchy of workers' needs, the base being caffeinated fizzy drinks, the next step up being able to solve a crisis of your own making. This is what workers need.
I think that works in therapy as well. You need some way of solving that damn crisis. You need a way of doing it. But anyway, back to your
preconditions. So they're the physical kinds of things.
The physical stuff. Yep.
Yes,
good
right. So we get that out of the way because that's, I mean, I think I've worked in situations where that is not provided, and it makes it so much more difficult.
Yeah, sure.
I would also like a little bit of classical music in the background.
Oh, you like a bit of music in the room. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, wow. Okay. What else do you like? What else do you need to get these outcomes? What else do we need?
I'm too embarrassed to say.
Oh, gosh. Oh, okay. Gosh, now we're getting affronted
because
now.
I know that you're a little bit against the scented candle in the therapy room.
No, well, only because it makes you hungry usually.
I'm always hungry anyway.
Oh, you like it? No, it's nice to set. No, but what you're describing is the container. You're saying that we need a good-looking container for the work to happen. It's got to feel solid and real and supportive.
It's got to feel comfortable. I think comfortable. For the client is, it's halfway there.
I agree.
Now, what do we need in terms of the individual practitioner?
Oh, right. Okay, yes. What do we need there?
Well, and I'm not sure what to talk about here because you need training.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You need training. You need you need a framework, a procedure, a way of thinking about
technique.
Things,
you need understanding. Yeah,
even if that's just assessment and treatment.
Sure, yeah. You need some kind of conveyor belt approach you're going to use over and over again. Some kind of consistent way of understanding what's going on and where we've got to get to.
Yes, yeah, or at a more basic level, I guess, how to do an initial assessment, how to feedback. And that varies across psychology. Yep. I mean, clinical psychology is very into the formulation, which is a way of feeding back and guiding treatments. But let's just put that aside because that's kind of boring. It's not boring. Maybe people are finding it interesting. Maybe you're finding it interesting. But what do I need as a practitioner to keep going? Let's make this all about me.
Okay, no problem. That's fine as well.
Oh, we can make it all about you because we're like racehorses, aren't we?
We are a bit like racehorses.
We need massages and to be brushed down and special grain.
Special grain. I think we you keep going till we get to a clear point of discussion, maybe, because we're going around something. I'm not sure what we're talking about yet.
I could possibly never get to a clear point of discussion here, but I am zeroing in on something, which is that perhaps part of the magic.
Yes.
And I don't know how this part of the magic, that's not like me to say that, part of the science is how well supported is the practitioner.
Okay, this is what we're trying to talk about, isn't it?
Because the practitioner, this is the interconnectedness of all things, Miss Immy.
Yes.
Ms. Immy, sorry, women athletes, not girls.
Yeah.
But the interconnectedness of all things points to the fact that if the practitioner is not safe, then all of the soft furnishings
doesn't count,
and all of the training, it doesn't count, because why the hell wouldn't you just bring out the cliches?
Good.
Because cliches don't get you in trouble. They don't do anything.
No,
they don't do anything. But they won't get you into trouble.
So what we're talking about here is safety, aren't we? But we're talking about a felt sense of safety for the practitioner in the work. And this is a hell of a conversation, which I don't think you can ever get to the bottom of, because some of it is circumstantial or situational, like how but some of it, like, clients can bring in, I do a lot of work with trauma, and trauma experiences are horrendous. They're horrendous.
Yes. So the client doesn't feel safe.
No.
And you got to feel safe for two people. Yeah.
I've got a story about this, that I was up at the shops I better not say the town near where I live, but anyway, up there, and there was one of those beings trying to, those green politics beings at the traffic lights. And I was going over to the noodle shop for lunch. I was keen to get to the noodle shop. Anyway,
wow, I'm loving this story already. Well, there's a noodle shop. There's an environmental activist. I got to
park on the wrong side, and I run into the environmental activist who accosted me, like they do, and wanted me to sign a petition. And I thought, all right, I had to wait for the lights to go, so it was a way of dealing with him. So I said, right, okay, I'll sign the petition. So he engages me in dialogue. I'm like, okay, what do you do for a living? He says. And I said, oh, I'm a psychologist. And he goes, are you a clinical psychologist? And I said,
wow.
I know. I said, immediately aggressive. I said, no, I'm a counselling psychologist. Oh, my girlfriend's a clinical psychologist. And so this went on for a minute about who's bigger or better or whatever. And I said, he goes, so it doesn't really matter for me whether I'm a clinical psych or not. The reality is I sit in a room with a person an hour at a time who's telling me about the darkest hours of their life. That's what I do for work. What are you doing for work? And then I went to the noodle shop. So that's an example of how unsafe you can feel just by people's views of what you do. And that was a really complex interaction to digest. Like, I didn't want to get accosted. He was angry about the forests in the Amazon. It was somehow psychologist's fault and maybe mine because I wasn't a clinical psych. Who knows? It's a very complex dynamic we had at the lights.
Was he really angry at his girlfriend?
Oh God, there's probably that as well. Like I didn't have time to get into that because I was hungry for lunch and there was a queue at the noodle shop. Like, and also he wasn't paying me. If you want to talk about that with me, there's a fee. Because if you're gonna feel that kind of aggression with somebody and try and help them with it, there definitely needs to be a boundary on what you're doing, and there needs to be an agreement on how you definitely need to go slowly through that conversation because there's so many component parts to his character, his sense of self, what went into his projection, I'm going to say, of internal aggression and childhood losses onto the forests of the Amazon that were being burned, and his outrage about that. So there's a lot of unsafeness in that particular scenario, and there's a lot of people that want help who are in situations like that. So digesting that and working with that dynamic is inherently unsafe.
Wow. So you can't be safe.
Well, I think the truth is you have to be able to. The
practitioner can't be safe.
Not in an absolute guaranteed way. Like I think psychoanalysis calls this transference, and I think we've forgotten to talk about transference, but I think we need a name to talk about the emotional impact of the work we do and the emotions that you're left with before and after a session from a client, which is a very mysterious and weird experience. And some people, I think it happens to all of us, but not all of us have words to label it. We may not have the sensitivity to detect it, and it loads up your body with stress.
Yes. For example, now I'm absolutely fine, but my demon Tiger is
what's he up to?
Is becoming quite agitated and rowing. He's like
demanding,
me. He's always hungry.
Is he hungry? He's trouble.
He got a little tin of disgusting squashy food this morning, so I'm not totally sure what his problem is. But
he's got sensitive digestion, our Tiger, doesn't he?
Yes, but yes. Now, sorry, you were saying something.
Well, that's interesting.
You can't be, you personally
Imogen,
can't be safe at lights going to noodle shops.
No, up the road when I'm sneaking out for lunch.
I'm both being serious
I know.
here. No, I am being serious. Although it's going to come across as a little bit facetious. In casual interactions, do you tell people you're a psychologist? This is our theme about running into people. And if you weren't going to speak the truth, if you were going to choose, right now I'm focused on noodles, I'm not going to be authentic, what would you be? Once again, we must reference my friend who is a geography teacher. Clinical psychologist by day, geography teacher by night. She has toyed with being a shoe designer. So
my high school geography teacher, interesting story, used to always make sure her shoes, belt and handbag matched. And she had a variety in the cupboard. I remember a green special, Kermit Frog green, which is an interesting choice. But I guess green, grass, hills, landscape, geography, it all goes together.
The expression matchy-matchy was invented for that person.
Oh, geez. She had the perm, the full 80s perm, and the matching handbag, belt and shoes. That was her fashion contribution.
Now, my friend's theory is that people are so gobsmacked by this, they don't ask any further questions of geography teachers.
Oh, no. What was the question? We're trying to figure out. What are we trying to figure out, Gerri? Oh, the safety business. The safety. Oh, I got so. Listen, it must be a bit of a. I'm not concentrating. Sorry, I'm right. Safety. We're talking about fashion because we're not feeling safe. Why aren't we feeling safe? Do you tell people? That's right. Do you tell people? Look. Oh, gee, that's a good. When I was younger, I used to tell people I was a secretary or an admin assistant, as is the current term for that role, because you get such a wide variety of responses from people that was so inconsistent, it was hard to know who to be. I think the second you mention that you're a psychologist, people can't see you anymore. They don't realise, they don't think you're a person
anymore.
There's
some kind of reaction, and if you're just going about your day, if you're buying your newspaper or, you know, excited by the Olympics or, you know, scratching your ass,
you can't you
don't want other levels to process.
God, Tiger's really going for it, isn't he? He's crying. Oh, yes.
Yeah, Tiger hasn't been served for like 15 minutes or something. I don't know.
He's upset. He's a demand
Tiger is not upset.
He's carrying on. All right, he can just do controlled crying for a minute. It's all right. He really is. He's really bleating.
I'm a behaviourist. I will attend to Tiger when he's behaving appropriately.
Not when Tiger
reinforcing his good behaviour.
Safety, right? Come on, we're fluffing around. What are we up to here? Safety, Gerri. Okay, so I think what the real way to achieve safety is, I think, it's about inner work. It's about making sense of the horrors that are coming into your office in whatever form they're coming in, and you have to figure out what your personal response to the horrors truly means, and if you can master that, you can sit in a compassionate space with more and more and more horror, and that's exactly what's happened in my life, in my working life.
Sometimes that's what's needed.
Well, trauma. You cannot imagine some things. Like, you think you know stuff, but just the permutations of horror that can come in. And I'm sure, like, you know, we're in Australia. People who've arrived here have either fled from, they're either political or economic refugees in some form, and whatever the force was that motivated you to immigrate to this country. And so you've got a horror somewhere lurking in the background that made you do that. And it's hard to talk about, and it's hard to recover from. And so, but what's trauma really? It's like a nervous system response that can't be quietened. It can't be calmed. It's like you've got this reaction that you keep having. It's like and when that reaction happens, it's mobilizing your body to say there's a threat somewhere. Like, we've got to deal with the threat, and that's what makes you feel unsafe. So you have to master that reaction in yourself, so that you can create a sense of stability and calm when someone's telling you that story, or or being with it when they're describing what's happened to them.
Yes, you have to process. You have to process the threats, whether they're in the room or whether they're external. You're talking about stuff within the room, and I'm mostly talking about external things. Which
well, they can be the same though. So, are you talking about like structural, like a lack of understanding from colleagues, organisation? What can we be more specific or?
Definitely. Definitely. In fact, I can even give a concrete example here.
Let's have a concrete example.
So in Tiger's... Oh,
he wants to be part of it. He wants to be part of it. Oh, he's coming on.
Tiger's got opinions, obviously.
Yeah, excuse me.
So I had a much-loved client who had an artistic side and was suffering depression.
Yeah.
And he or she was in the room of a previous workplace, was in the waiting room, and there was reception staff in the waiting room, admin staff in the waiting room, I'm not sure. And I greeted my client warmly, ready to take them into the room, and I greeted them by gesturing to myself and saying something like, "It's good to see you," and I'm rocking the look of middle-aged woman, too many accessories. So just having a bit of banter there in the waiting room, because it was an authentic communication. I was middle-aged woman rocking too many accessories. I mean, don't you like to do that sometimes? Do you like that look? Do you like sort of middle-aged woman visiting an art gallery, lots of drapey stuff?
Drapey.
Sometimes I'm into that. But at that moment,
we'll talk about that in a minute. Keep going.
At that moment, I was into too many accessories.
Right.
Anyway, so banter, finished. We went into the therapy room and had a session of exciting clinical psychology, evidence-based practice.
Going for gold. Let's win that race. Some
days later, so this story is in fact not about the clients. This story is about the workplace and the lack of safety. It got back to me, and the principal talked to me about stupid things I said.
Oh wow! So you had a bit of
It came back from admin staff.
So you were corrected on your use of language and permitted words. Oh, Gerri. Wow. So the totalitarian state arrives.
Perhaps there was an anti-accessory stance. Yes.
Just hang on, back the truck up. What exactly did the tool say to you? What did he say?
I probably do say a lot of stupid things, but there's no doubt about it.
But hang on a minute. What was his concerns about your referencing your accessory use? Like, what was the harm you were causing, or the criminal act that had occurred? Like, what? Just let's super precise. Let's articulate the tool's viewpoint.
I don't think that this was specified.
Oh, interesting.
What I think is particularly interesting, and this told me something about what the path of communication was. And the path of communication was admin staff to the principal.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, my God, Gerri. Oh, my God. Do you know, I used to work for the Department of Health and Human Services in my state of origin now. And I was on an adolescent specialist team when I first started work, and we had we used to have like events in the office to try and liven things up. So on April Fool's Day, I piloted a practical joke day, And there were a number of female employees who had minor meltdowns, and one of them had a little tantrum where she yelled at everyone and went to the bathroom and cried for a good hour. And I had to discuss with her concerns about the practical jokes, which we thought were hilarious because we were working with adolescents, so we thought it was like really funny. But what was actually going on is there's a certain kind of female employee who is bitter and resentful about their lack of opportunities. And when I had an authentic conversation with this tool, she ended up explaining to me that she hadn't had opportunities that she perceived I had had. She knew nothing of my life, nor the struggles I'd had, nor I can't swear, but the escape from legacies of massacres of Aboriginal people in Australia, let's just say. None of that was considered by her white ass. But anyway, apparently I'd had more opportunities than she had, and she was having a cry about them. And I said to her, but you could go to university if you wanted to. You just have to, work at it and not eat for 3 or 4 years and, study and never sleep. And anyway, the point of the story is there's a certain person in the workforce who decides to react to their lack of whatever by becoming resentful. They're hurt by it, but they choose not to do anything about it.
Yes.
And
First of all, a couple of comments here.
Okay.
I love it when you get all frisky and angry. Secondly,
it's cat-like, isn't it?
Yes, you have exactly nailed the problem, because if you draw attention to your accessories, people will be envious.
Create envy.
So whether it's opportunities, whether it's clanky costume jewelry, you can engender bitterness in people. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, no, I sorry, I couldn't help myself there. Please keep talking, because I want to know what happened, and I am a bit impatient with you. I know I'm a bit impatient with your younger self, because
what happened
this situation was crying out for cliches.
There was lots of cliches. There was hairdos that were. What cliches do you think?
We just value you so much. And
I did a bit of cliche.
There's an obvious what do you call it? A misunderstanding here, a communication.
Oh yeah, I went through all that.
And we're just very different people, but that doesn't mean that I don't totally value what you do here. And we couldn't get by without you.
Well, let me tell you one of the practical jokes we played on our team leader that year, and this is still played every year, last I heard, because one of my clients came in and told me about this practical joke, and I went, really? Okay, so I won't name the agencies, but we were like government adolescent agencies in the community, NGOs, and we would work together with contract cases back and forth and go to court and all sorts of carry on, very exciting. And we had clients that were frequently trying to do crazy things like crash cars and train surf and light fire to Parliament, it's good stuff like that. So one year on April Fool's Day, we created this fabulous practical joke to play on our team leader, and we got one of the agencies to send through a fax with all of the headline sort of issues that would have gone straight to the minister. Stuff like they've got a petrol bomb, that Channel 7 choppers are here. Someone's got a shotgun. We just put all the crisis response cases for the last 2 years in one practical joke, and we wrote a fax, like a crisis alert, crisis report. And our team leader got this fax, and we were all there in a team meeting, and you could just see the blood slowly draining from his face. And then, of course, did the crisis response, informed the minister, and we'd alerted everyone that this was on, so not to take it seriously. And our team leader took us to McDonald's and did not speak to us for like a week. But God, it was such a good practical joke. Now the agencies play it on each other every year. So tradition can come from these sorts of things. I know.
That is
funny.
So out there.
Oh, we got punished though. God, we got punished. We weren't spoken to. We didn't get any love or attention or good vibes for a week. we got silence. But it was a hell of a joke. God, it was funny. It had everything. Car blew up. Like kids are holding someone hostage because we work with high risk adolescents. Like naughty kids.
Oh,
it's so funny.
No,
it was so funny.
Sorry, I'm hearing that, but part of me is a little freaked out by that.
We made sure the only person who thought it was real was our team leader. We worded everybody else up. But we'd had sort of aspects that they were all part of cases that had actually happened. Like we just added together all the crisis issues we'd had for like 18 months or something. So when you looked at it all together, in the back of your mind, you must be going, have we done this before? Didn't that happen already? It was a bit too much. Like it was just... Anyway.
Yeah.
And it was also April the 1st. It was April the 1st. So.
Yes. I don't know if people do that kind of thing anymore.
No, they don't. They don't. Yeah. Just if you're from Queensland. And geez, we had a good laugh. Because in that kind of service, you need a good laugh. Otherwise, you just be crying all the time.
I mean, that is true too. This isn't really a practical joke. This is just a kind of mental health in joke. But sometimes if the head of the mental health service was late to a meeting, I would page him, "Why are you abandoning us?"
You're so funny. See, I think we need more of that at work. But no,
more jokes.
Especially
jokes
mental
against
health.
people in charge.
Oh geez. I used to love.
We possibly do. It's being phased out a lot. Capitalism doesn't like it.
But you get these awesome workers like at the Monash psych unit that were like we used to have to go on. Like I guess you go on visits all the time and. You get these great workers, like you walk in and there'd be a mental health worker with a long stick with a star on the end and a couple of ribbons. And I'm like, what's that? And she said, that's my wand. It helps them go to sleep.
Wow.
And, that's the sort of vibe I think we need to it's hard to, but some people are not obviously a wand helping people go to sleep.
Yeah, because what we've identified here is that humour is a form of communication that is authentic and it's beyond cliche, although it often uses cliches.
Yeah,
and through humour, as frightening and risky though it is, good things can happen.
You build connection and community, and it's a way of reorienting your attention to the truth.
Yeah.
Because without the truth, you've got no rudder. And when somebody like the reception staff member who's taken upon herself to correct you by going to speak to Boss Cocky, Mr. Principal Tool Patrol, and you've got some feedback that goes, none of that, Big G. None of that. That's not okay. Yeah.
Did you just say, what was that expression? Boss Cocky
Tool Patrol.
School Principal Tool Patrol.
Yes.
Yes,
because if you're going to behave like that.
You're going to leave me with that, aren't you? You're going to end things and leave me with that phrase.
I'll have to debrief you later. Oh, wait, well, look at that time, Gerri. We've got to bugger off. Look at that time.
I got to go and we did. I've got to go and lovingly stroke my accessories.
And attend to Tiger, who's waited patiently now that he's got cuddles happening. Is he on your? No, he's not. He's hovering around.
Tiger's gone all quiet.
Oh, is that a good sign?
And he's pooed somewhere.
Gee, you've got toileting issues with your baby cat. Can we, Gerri, this is an interesting dilemma.
On that cheerful note, I will say goodbye. We shall return to our authentic communication.
Okay. All right, Humour.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.